Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into today's video. It's JMA Friday, so we're going to have a look at the weather for the coming month from the Japanese model to see what it's showing. 500 of our heights broken down into weekly periods for the next month. It takes us into March, can you believe? So going into the start of spring with this update. We'll also have a look at the CFS and we'll have a look at some shorter range charts as well. So a lot going on in today's video, but before I get on that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on most of the pages at dazzlebiz.com. Have a browse through the widgets and anything that you're interested in, just click through. Thanks so much for doing that. So here we are with the first 500 height anomaly chart from the Japanese model. This one is taking us from the 5th to the 12th of February, so the week that we're currently in. As you know, 500 millibar heights, blue is extrapolating to low pressure, and orange is extrapolating to high pressure. So what we see for the coming week is very evidently, British Isles just here, I've got us the right way round now on these charts. The British Isles has a big area of above average height sitting right over the top of the country. High pressure is well and truly in and very, very dominant. The low pressure is going up to the north of the country, and the jet stream is running in, something like that. Quite a strong jet stream, but it's generally to the north actually. So we're more or less on the mild side of the jet, but of course we're under an area of high pressure and it is midwinter. So whilst we're on the mildish side of the jet, it's not going to be that warm because we're under a static area of high pressure. Nevertheless, temperatures will get an increase compared to what they have been. It's not, we're going to be coming out of the cold conditions that we had over the past couple of weeks and going nearer to the seasonal average. As we move through into the second week period, this one takes us from the 12th to the 19th of February, and very little change really. The situation remains pretty much the same. Again, the high pressure is in there, right over the top of the country. Sorry, that's low pressure. That's better. That's high pressure in there, right over the top of the country. We've got low pressure running to the north of Scotland. Very deep trough over on the eastern side of the States again through that period. So more cold weather to come for them. But for us, we're under that ridge of high pressure. The jet is generally again to the north of the country. So it's a very similar sort of situation to the coming week, actually going up to the middle of the month. Lots of dry weather under high pressure and temperatures probably around average, but of course day by day the sun is getting stronger. So as we're going through February into this area of high pressure, the potential is there for things to be turning milder. Now as we go through to the final 2 weekly period, this one takes us from the 19th of February to the 5th of March. A bit of a change taking place here, or quite a dramatic change actually. All of a sudden we lose the above average heights of high pressure. We replace it with a trough of low pressure, and the jet stream, very interestingly, is digging southwards as well. So the high pressure is going out in towards the central part of the Atlantic, and this trough is coming in, and as I say, we're going on to the cold side of the jet stream with that. So that's a much more unsettled pattern as we're going to the end of February and start of March. It's also potentially quite a lot colder as well. I can actually break these down into week periods with the temperatures. I'll do that for you in a moment, but it does turn colder as we go through into the start of spring. Wouldn't you just know it? It turned quite a bit colder there with that trough digging through. So big changes at the end of February into start of March. So we can break this down into week periods with the temperatures. This is the temperature forecast based on those 500 millibar height anomalies. British Isles is over in the very, very far right hand corner of the chart. You're looking at it just there. And so the coming week, this is the week for the 5th to the 12th of February, near normal temperature, so lifting up compared to the cold conditions that we have had. Remember, the high pressure sort of sitting over the top of the country. If we go through to the second week, we can see that it actually is staying quite mild again through to the second weekly period. This is the chart for the second week, and again actually going a little bit milder than average through that period. So as I say, as the high pressure that sits there and the sun gets stronger day by day as it begins to rise back into the northern hemisphere, yeah, we start to see the temperature going a little bit milder from the week to the 12th to the 19th of February. But then as we go through to that final weekly or 2 weekly period, taking us up to the end of February and into the start of March. What we find going on there, interestingly, it turns a lot wetter. I'll just quickly highlight that. It's quite dry through the first 2 weeks, but in the second 2 weeks it turns a lot wetter with above average precipitation. But perhaps even more interestingly is that the temperatures do drop again. It actually turns quite cold. This is the temperature forecast for that final 2 week period from the 19th to the 5th of March. And the temperature's clearly going quite a bit below average there, going on to the colder side of the average. So the JMA is seeing the switch at the end of February into the start of March to colder conditions. And more unsettled conditions as well. The high pressure that dominates through much of the middle part of February anyway does relent as we get through to the end of the month. Let's have to see how the CFS deals with things. These again are 500 millibar heights, taking us from the 6th to the 12th of February. First of all, what we see there for the coming weekly period, again, big area of above average height sitting across the country. Again, the jet stream is going something like that, so more or less on the mild side of the jet, but under the high pressure it needn't be all that mild. As we go through to the next week period, this will take us from the 13th to the 19th of February. Again, high pressure very, very dominant, pulling out into the Atlantic a little bit, so the jet stream is like that. It's a little bit more unsettled through that period. Again, notice this very deep trough by way on the eastern side of the states. Really cold conditions could be coming through there through the middle part of February. That would mean they've had a very, very cold winter in the east and the northeast of states. But for us, again, the high pressure is around the country, a little bit to the west, so probably turning a bit milder with that one, more of an Atlantic flow coming through. But still relatively settled. Could be a little bit more unsettled in the north, I suppose, but relatively unsettled with that one. Very similar situation from the 20th to the 26th of February. High pressure fest goes on. It does look like it's going to be a very, very dry February indeed, if these charts are right. We've got low pressure up to the north and the jet stream again doing something like that. The jet stream is trying to come south though, so this could be a little bit of a transitional period right at the end of February. I think the jet stream is beginning to show signs of digging back in action, and possibly going more towards the northwest or the north. So maybe it starts off settled, relatively mild from that period to the 20th to 26th. As we get through towards the end of the period, say around 24th, 25th, 26th, it might start to turn more unsettled and a bit colder as well. And then finally we go through to the final week period, takes us from the 27th of February through to the 5th of March, and then definitive signs of a change. The high pressure again is pulling out into the central part of the Atlantic. There it goes. This deep trough of low pressure is beginning to dig through, and the jet stream is going something like that. So gradually through that final period of February, last couple of days into the start of March, I think the jet stream's coming back. It's turning more unsettled, and it's potentially turning colder as well. I would suspect what happens is that this area of high pressure pulls further out that way, and this trough of low pressure from the north pushes further southward. So this could well be in line with the Japanese model in indicating a chance of it turning colder as we get through into the start of March, into the start of spring. Let's have a look at the temperatures, how they break down. So the first weekly period from the 6th to the 12th is a colder than average period. That's maybe because it's starting off quite cold. There we are again in the top right hand corner of the chart. As you're starting off quite cold through that period. Temperatures probably moderating, going more towards average as we go along. The next week period, 13th to the 19th of February, we go a little bit above average for the first time in quite a while. We're back into the orange and red colour, so temperatures are getting a boost through that weekly period. That looks about right, I would suggest. As we go through into the next weekly period, this takes us from the 20th to 26th of February. Again, we see the temperatures are around average, so not as warm through that period. That could be transitional, starting off, as say, with high pressure at the centre of the country, then pulling further away. The jet stream to come back a little bit, but around average temperatures for that week period. And then for the final week period, 27th to the 5th of March, again it's quite close to average, but it is turning colder, I think, generally. And if you look across the continent, definite signs that many central parts of Europe are turning colder as well. So I think the CFS and the JMA are seeing lot of settled weather through the middle part of February, the very end of the month, probably turning more unsettled and probably turning a little bit colder as well. Finally, a quick look at the Japanese model. Finally, as I say, for this long-range update, these are 500 millibar heights from the Beijing Climate Centre. For 10-day periods, we have a ridge of high pressure around the country, projecting running to the north, so that's all in agreement with the JMA and the CFS. Let's go through into sort of the latter stages of February. This takes us from the 16th to the 25th. We've still got a high pressure in there across the country, so a lot of settled weather going on up towards the latter stages of February from the Beijing Climate Centre. But the trough is showing signs of trying to dig southwards a little bit. But as we go through into the final 10-day periods, this one takes us well into March. We see what happens then is that, again, definite signs of a change. The ridging is taking place around Greenland. The trough is setting up over UK. The winds would be going into the north, something like that. So we're going back onto the cold side of the jet, and we're relatively unsettled with the hints of a trough of low pressure. So the longer range models are in agreement, but there's lots of settled weather for much of February. A change takes place at the end of February and into March, when it turns more unsettled and cold. It'll be interesting how that plays out. Just have a quick look at the generic charts before I go. Hints yesterday, but could have a bit of retrogression and some colder conditions into middle part of February. We've still got a few hints here with the GFS ensemble chart. There's a few cold outliers still showing up there, but generally I think the idea is still that we're keeping high pressure dominating and not in a particularly cold position. So the red line here, the 30-year temperature average, shows that most members of the ensemble are staying above average. Certainly in terms of the upper air temperatures will be a little bit cooler on the surface end of the high pressure, but generally quite a mildish period coming through. But as long as these cold outliers are there, we've got to take the possibility that we could get some colder conditions around the middle part of the month. But the generic charts aren't really seeing it. And look how dry it is. Again, virtually no precipitation spikes at all coming through there, right up to the very end of the chart, 21st of February. Very, very dry. That is exceptionally dry weather really for the middle part, or well, say into the latter part now of the winter. Finally, the charts from the GFS. This is for a week's time, Friday the 13th of February. High pressure fest goes on well and truly in across the country. We go through today, 10 Monday 16th, and the high pressure goes on. That cold shot that I was talking about yesterday is generally to the east and the northeast of the country, so it doesn't really impact as the high pressure just routed over the top of the UK, deflecting those colder conditions into the east of Europe. The ECWF for a week's time, Friday the 13th, high pressure, very dominant. Go through to the 16th of February, high pressure still very dominant. Maybe turn a little bit more unsettled, but very far north of Scotland, but really very dry conditions there. 1,035 millibar of high pressure sitting just to the south of the country. So that's how it's looking. I think we're going to have lots and lots of dry weather coming up through this middle part of February. If the longer range models are right, there's always a degree of uncertainty about them, of course, but if the longer range models are right, this fine dry weather will carry on through most of February. The final week will see a gradual change to something colder and a little bit more unsettled as well. And as we go through to March, the start of spring could see a return to winter. That's all for now, and thanks for watching. Weekend forecast tomorrow. Bye for now.